Hey everyone, welcome back to Gaming with Amy. Thanks for being here. I grew up in the 90s, as in I was under 10 years old for the majority of it, which was arguably one of the best times to be a kid. Nickelodeon was in its heyday with shows like Rugrats, Doug, all that, and my personal favorite, Are You Afraid of the Dark? Pokemon cards became a craze, so much so that they were banned at my school for being too distracting. Nintendo 64 was released, which is a console I didn't own, but one of my best friends had it, and I was mesmerized as I watched him play Super Mario 64. VHS tapes are one of the things I remember fondly about growing up, especially those chunky cases many of the titles were packaged in. I had a huge collection of movies that we stored in a spinning media tower. My dad also recorded a lot of TV shows and movies on our VCR, mostly of his favorite 60s sitcom and anything we might miss if we were out of the house when it aired. That's right, kids, we had to plan ahead and tape shows. Otherwise, we might never get to see them. Join me as I delve into some of my favorite VHS tapes from my childhood. Unfortunately, I don't own any VHS tapes anymore, so we'll have to make do with images. I actually attempted to rebuy some, but since everyone is collecting VHS tapes again, they're actually quite pricey. Just a bit of advice for you all, don't get rid of your collections because you'll regret it. Before we dive in, I'd super appreciate it if you could like this video. And if you'd like to see more videos like this from yours truly, feel free to subscribe so you don't miss any new content. Home Alone. I don't know how many times I've seen Home Alone, but according to my mom, it was basically all I watched from around ages 3 to 7. I guess I thought it was hilarious. I don't even particularly like Christmas, but there was something about the slapstick comedy and Macaulay Culkin's impeccable comedic timing that drew me in. I'm pretty sure I had this soft cover copy. It's kind of surprising the tape didn't wear out considering how much I watched it. Upon rewatching it as an adult, Home Alone still holds up, and so does Home Alone 2: Lost in New York. I'm sure everyone on the planet has seen these movies by now, but in case you haven't, I highly recommend them. Beetlejuice. Another movie that hypnotized me as a kid was Beetlejuice. I actually have a visceral memory of watching it for the first time, specifically when Beetlejuice turns into a snake from the staircase handrail. It scared the living shit out of me, but I apparently got over that quickly and kept watching it over and over again. Also, I never owned a copy of Beetlejuice, in the traditional sense at least. My dad had taped it from HBO or maybe another premium channel because there were no commercials. It was the last thing on the tape, so I'd have to fast forward through something else just to watch it. That's all true. For some reason, this makes Beetlejuice even more special to me, and to this day, it's still one of my favorite movies. Matilda. Yet another kids movie that still holds up. Matilda. Actor and beloved Italian-American Danny DeVito actually directed this, and my god, is it an excellent film. It's obviously a children's movie, but a lot of the jokes are smart enough for adults to enjoy too. In case you've never seen Matilda, it's about a highly intelligent little girl who survives a neglectful family through not just her magical powers, but also through the love of her teacher. I related to Matilda a lot because she loved reading and going to the library, two of my favorite things as both a child and an adult. It's also one of the few films that holds a very special place in my heart. Lion King. As I'm sure a lot of 90s kids remember, The Lion King was a huge deal. It was the highest grossing animated feature of the 90s. Disney had a ton of success with The Little Mermaid, Aladdin, and Beauty and the Beast previously, but The Lion King was on another level. I remember going to see it at my local movie theater, and the amount of merch they were selling was insane. I'm sure there were also a bunch of branding deals with McDonald's and other companies that contributed to promotional efforts. It was also just a magical time to go to the movies when people still enjoyed this sort of thing. This kind of hype, especially for a children's animated movie, sadly doesn't exist anymore. Obviously, I own The Lion King on VHS, packed in the aforementioned chunky cases, and it was in very heavy rotation at my house. Michael. Alright, this one's a bit of a wild card. Michael is an off-kilter movie where John Travolta plays a lackadaisical, beer-swilling angel. It's not exactly a childhood favorite per se, but I have to mention it because my guitar teacher, Mr. Rosenthal, or JR as he preferred to be called, was simply obsessed with this movie. It's perhaps fair to say JR would occasionally get fixated on things, and he analyzed Michael like it was some kind of dense philosophical text. For For those of you who haven't seen it, Michael is about the titular archangel, the very same divine entity who supposedly repelled Lucifer's army when he attempted to mount a war against God. Though this particular depiction of Michael is a bit subversive. Instead of being all holy and pure, he's kind of a mess. He smokes, drinks, and flirts with just about every woman he comes across. I think JR liked Michael in a so bad it's good type of way, but it also fascinated him for some inexplicable reason. I tried watching it, and honestly, I couldn't get through the first 10 minutes. So yeah, Michael deserves an honorable mention just for JR, rest his soul. He had strange taste in movies, that's for sure. Casper. As a surprise to no one, the live adaptation of Casper was a frequently played tape in my childhood home. Compared to everything else that was released around this time, I think this is a bit of a deep cut. For some reason though, I really connected with it. Casper the Friendly Ghost was an old comic and cartoon, but this adaptation strays from the source material, writing in new characters and a very sad backstory for Casper. I don't know if this is technically a good movie because I haven't seen it in many years, but it still gives me so much nostalgia. It actually might be a fun one to throw on around spooky season if you have kids in your life. Mrs. Doubtfire, Hook, and Jumanji. I don't know if other generations have experienced this, but the late actor and comedian Robin Williams was in many of my favorite movies growing up. It's almost like he was part of the family. In all honesty, his passing in 2014 hit me hard because his work was such a huge part of my childhood. I don't think I'm the only 90s kid who feels this way either. Williams' films Mrs. Doubtfire, Hook, and Jumanji were in heavy rotation at my house. While all of these films are quite different, there's just something so charming and mesmerizing about Williams' performances. I don't really think there's another actor out there like him. He was able to switch from silly and animated to somber and heartfelt very easily, and I don't think it's a reach to say that these films wouldn't be the same without him. Thanks for taking a trip down memory lane with me. Are there any other 90s kids that loved these movies growing up? Which movies did you love as a kid? I'd love to hear your thoughts down in the comments. Oh, and one more thing. I'm going to be doing a Q&A video soon, so be sure to send your questions to amysidwell481@gmail.com. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in my next video.